welcome back to the WHHI News. Judicial reform, it is a hot topic here in the state of South Carolina, and the legislature is looking at what needs to be done. Here to tell us what's out there right now, what's being considered, 14th Circuit Solicitor Duffie. Great to see you again.
Thank you, Alec. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, now the House has a committee, special committee,
Yes.
right, that is
Yes.
looking at the issue of judicial reform. Before we look at what may be done, how is it set up now that we get our judges?
South Carolina is one of only 2 states in the country that elect their judges exclusively by the General Assembly. And so there is no input from the executive branch of government at all. And that's important and I think significant because the entire state votes on the governor. And legislators are voted obviously by a much smaller group of people that are more local. And so the fact that you don't have any input from the executive branch of government is significant. And again, we're the only one of 2 states that do it that way. But that's how we elect all of our judges, from circuit court to Supreme Court to our Court of Appeals.
And who puts forward, well, first of all, who makes the nominations or puts the nominations forward to the legislature?
Well, and that's the key. It comes out of, obviously, someone has to say they want to be a judge.
Sure.
But their qualifications are screened by what's called the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. The Judicial Merit Selection Committee is currently made up of appointees from both the Senate and the House.
Okay.
So basically right now you have a legislative structure in which the legislature screens candidates. They only hand out 3 candidates per race, and that's part of the rules. And then the General Assembly votes on the same people that members of the General Assembly or their appointees are the ones that recommend it.
Okay, so what is the House looking at with this committee?
In October, the Speaker of the House, Merle Smith, created a committee to study potential judicial reform and to make recommendations to the House, which would, of course, then still have to be voted on by the Senate. My understanding is that report is coming out today, and in that report, they're going to retain, obviously the Senate and the House still will have people that they can appoint to the Judicial Merit Selection Committee, and the emphasis is on the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. But some significant changes, I think. Number one, the governor gets appointments, and in fact gets the majority of appointments.
I think how many? 5?
He will get 5. He also will get the appointment of the chair of the committee, and that it has to be a retired circuit court judge, or a retired judge.
Okay.
So there's going to be 5 votes. The chair is going to come from the executive branch. The Judicial Merit Selection Committee process is going to be live streamed, which I think helps.
Let's talk about that with transparency. Well, you said the governor has 5, so do we get so many from the Senate and the House?
It's going to be 4 from the Senate, 4 from the House. Only 2 of each of those can actually be sitting senators or House members.
So they cannot be
but they
serving.
still have the
2
influence.
can be.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you started to mention live streaming. There's a whole issue about transparency, and it hasn't been present. So is that being proposed too then, live streaming?
And the live streaming because they want to, the proposal is that it brings more transparency to the process. And so that will be all of the Judicial Merit Selection Committee process, that will be live streamed as well, and that's another part of the component. The other thing that they've added in, which is interesting, they will not limit the number of candidates that can be recommended to the General Assembly. Right now the limit's 3.
Okay.
And so what happens is you may have 10 qualified candidates.
Do you think they get like an onslaught of people or not?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes they will get 10.
Is that okay? Is that good in your mind?
I think it is good. I think it's good to have anybody. First of all, there needs to be a qualifying process, obviously. But I think once they are deemed qualified, then put all of them up.
Sure.
And I think that's going to be part of this at least new recommendation coming from the House. So there's no cap on 3. It can be 10. It can be 5.
Okay. You know, we're already almost out of time. Is there any final point you want to make or let us know about with the House committee doing
All of this is still going to have to go through the entire judicial process.
Okay.
It has to actually be created as a bill. It has to pass out of the House by probably the first week in April in order to have any chance of being passed by the Senate. But once both of those houses pass it, then you'll actually have the judicial reform.
Thanks again, 14th Circuit Solicitor Duffie. We will be having you back to update us on this issue, very important one. And when we come back, we will look at the Winthrop poll. How are Nikki Haley and Donald Trump doing in South Carolina? Stay right there.